Welcome back to another episode of Trash Talk. I'm Jon-Bernard. This is Nick. We are the K-Roos brothers giving you the fight news that's happening around the world. Nick, we just touched back down in Sydney.
From New York, Vegas, Vancouver. It was a great little trip.
I mean, yeah, we covered WWE. We went UFC 310, UFC 309. Got to see the GOAT, John Jones. Then we just saw Shavkat beat Ian Gary. Alexandre Pantoja still the GOAT. It was a great combat sports trip. It's great to be back home for Christmas, back in Sydney, but there's still more to come. A lot happening right now.
Well, we should be reacting to what was an underwhelming but also underrated card. UFC 310, Shavkat versus Ian Gary surprised a lot of people. I think Pantoja surprised a lot of people. A lot of controversy in the Cyril Gane decision. But let's go straight into the hot take.
The MMA hot take of the week. Is Ilia Topuria done with the featherweight division?
Well, I don't think he is, because if you're the featherweight champion, someone who's only had one defense, you have a lot more work to do in your division before you go up to lightweight. Now, I know there was rumors of him potentially fighting Islam. He wants the Islam fight. But now there's rumors that he might be fighting Charles Oliveira.
It's not rumors. It's breaking news. He said he has had his last featherweight fight and he wants to fight the number one contender on his pursuit of Islam, which is Charles Oliveira. He wants to fight Charles Oliveira next. And you know what? I want to see it happen. I think he needs to do a lot more in the featherweight division. He hasn't conquered the division like Volk had, but he simply doesn't want to fight Volk. He thinks he doesn't deserve a rematch. He wants more challenges. So he says, give me Charles Oliveira. I'll take it in Miami and let's go. I'll fight Islam next. He thinks he's the only person that can beat Islam, and I want to see it happen.
Logistically, though, let's look at it. Charles Oliveira, what does he get from facing Ilia Topuria? He's already in a position
Super fight.
I know, but he's already in a position now where he's next in line for the winner of Arman versus Islam. So really, he's jeopardizing his own title shots. I don't think Charles wants this fight.
Okay, firstly.
And Ilia, if he has one more featherweight title defense, which I think is an easier fight than Charles, he can then fight Islam.
We spoke to Islam. He says, I'm kind of tired of my division as well. He goes, they're giving me Arman again. I've already beat Charles. You know, everyone they say that's going to be a tough fight isn't really. Dustin really gave me the hardest time. He's kind of done with his division too. If Belal wasn't champion, he would go up as well.
Yeah, but don't bank on because Belal.
This featherweight fight, I know he had a featherweight fight with Volk. An Ilia versus Islam fight would do numbers. So I'm keen to see it.
The only person in history that has gone up without having to have a title defense was Conor McGregor. Ilia Topuria obviously has drawn a lot of comparisons to Conor McGregor. So I'm not doubting whether he deserves it or not, whether he can do it. I just think it would make more sense to have a fight against Volk or Lopez at least before going up.
Imagine how big of a villain Ilia Topuria will be if he knocks out Volk, Max Holloway, and then Charles Oliveira, all within the space of about a year. He's saying he wants to be there in Miami, right? UFC Miami, fight Charles Oliveira because he can't fight Islam straight away. Islam's fighting in January. I think it's very much going to happen. And why? Because they would do an interim fight for the title for Volk versus Lopez or Volk versus whoever, and Volk wants to fight for an interim belt or a belt. If they're not going to do Volk versus Ilia, this is the fight to make, and I think it should happen. He's coming out saying he wants to retire by 30 years old. He's 27, so he just wants big fights. I think he's proven himself enough. Who's he going to fight in the featherweight division, really? Who beats him?
Evelev says he can beat him. I don't think he can. I think Ilia Topuria knocks him out, but he does owe it to Volk for a rematch. I think he said that himself, and my money is still on Volk versus Topuria in Spain, hopefully in April or May. But let's go back to the 310 card. It was reported that Shavkat, by Daniel Cormier, it was reported that Shavkat came into the fight with a torn MCL. Do you believe this?
I believe it. You know, his translator kind of failed to translate in the post-match interview to say that he had an injury. He said, you know, he came in with some issues. So when he called out Belal, he said, you know, I'll be injury-free. Let's go. Let's see who the best in the division is. That's obviously the next fight to make. But Shavkat, if he keeps getting injured, can't really catch a break. He was injured going into his last fight.
Ankle injury against Wonderboy.
Against Wonderboy.
A torn MCL against Ian Gary.
He had to lean on his wrestling again. But if you're saying to me that he treated Ian Gary like that coming off a torn MCL, this guy is the best in the division. If he's coming in fresh against Belal, I think he beats Belal. Because you could say in that performance he had against Ian Gary, you know, Belal probably beats both of those guys. But if he's looking like that with a torn MCL and you get a fresh Shavkat that's wrestling and striking, I think he's the best in the division.
My thing is with Shavkat, I was disappointed in his performance on the weekend, but that's because of the high expectation you have of him of being a finisher, someone that's going to get the knockout, going to get the submission. But I think more credit should go to Ian Gary than you say Shavkat was bad. Ian Gary did surprise me in his takedown defense. And how quick he was, it was much better than his fight against MVP.
His jab was sharp.
And I think overall, his length was something that did trouble Shavkat. I know he's versed other people that were tall, specifically Wonderboy, but it was just the way Ian Gary fought. And again, there's been fights in the past where someone like Hamza hasn't looked as good against Kamaru Usman.
Mm-hmm.
There's sometimes it's just bad matchups. But then the next fight, Hamza versus Robert Whittaker, he destroys him. So Shavkat could very easily verse Belal and destroy him.
Big size mismatch as well.
And all of a sudden, his aura shoots straight back up. So I wouldn't be looking too deep into one fight.
Well, that is the next fight to make for Shavkat. You saw what happened. He called out Belal to come into the ring. Now, this was the most awkward UFC fighter call out in UFC history.
Poor Belal.
Shavkat asked Belal to come into the ring. The security don't know that Belal's the champion. They didn't even know that Belal. I feel sorry for the bloke. Joe Rogan, I didn't even think he was trying to make a joke, says security doesn't know he's the champ. Let him in the ring. And it became a meme all over the internet. Kamaru Usman just reacted to it and said, what is the state of the division when Belal is getting embarrassed as the champion? The security don't even know he's a champ. Conor McGregor takes to Twitter, does his famous voice notes and rips Belal again. You know, who the fuck is this guy? Saying, look at the state of this, how embarrassing is it? And he was laughing his head off. It was funny, but I actually feel for Belal. Like, I don't think he deserves this treatment.
I feel like after every single viral Belal Muhammad incident, you just walk away saying, I feel sorry for him because he doesn't deserve it.
No.
Whether it would be him walking into the cage on the weekend having trouble to get in. I think in Manchester as well, there was some post-fight mishap with Belal Muhammad. He just can't catch a break. And I know Joe Rogan definitely doesn't mean it, but you're burying him. You're doing so much disservice to Belal Muhammad. It's not even funny.
It was just awkward. The translator saying, come on, let's get it on. Let's see who's the best. And they tried to do a three-way handshake with Joe Rogan. No one wanted to shake hands. It was an awkward call out, and it's fitting for Belal. But Belal continues to prove people wrong. If this is the fight to make after UFC 310, which it is, it's Belal versus Shavkat. You know, is everyone, who do you have? What's the early prediction?
I still think, and I'm going to be following the betting odds here, Shavkat would be a favorite, a heavy favorite, strictly because of the size mismatch. I understand Belal did surprise a lot of people with how dominant he was against Leon Edwards, but Shavkat is a better fighter. I think even going into the Ian Gary fight, you just say he's better all round. In every aspect of the fighting, he's going to be better. Belal maybe could surprise people, but I think overall, Shavkat maybe coming in a bit healthier, maybe with a better game plan, will beat Belal and be champion. I think it's that simple. Belal, I think, is a great fighter, but age will play a factor. He's going to be a year older, especially when you're in the UFC. Age is always the biggest factor, so Belal would lose that fight.
I wonder when they do it. I think Shavkat will obviously get some time off, let his injuries heal.
It won't be a main event.
Belal's got to heal as well. I mean, he said he almost amputated his toe just to be on UFC 310. He wanted to be in there.
I think that might have been a white lie. I think it might have been a fanfare to show how tough you are.
Regardless, I want to see it happen. So I think maybe International Fight Week around that July, June period.
It's a fight that definitely can't be a main event. It's going to be a co-main.
We have what fight to make next? Ian Gary. Who does he face next?
Colby Covington. If Colby Covington can get past Joaquin Buckley, actually, even if he loses, there's been that much bad blood, that many bad words said between you guys. If the fight doesn't get made, it's a joke. I think Ian Gary on the weekend said he wants to show up to Tampa this weekend and fight Colby Covington.
Yeah.
So he wants the fight very, very badly. So you give it to him. Just make it happen.
I want to see it happen. I think he fights the winner of Joaquin Buckley versus Colby Covington. But regardless, are there any other matchups to make in the division?
Well, I don't know if they've put out the official rankings yet, but I feel like he should be higher on the list. So
he came out and said if the UFC want to return to Dublin, he'll go and fight in Dublin. But anywhere else in Europe, he doesn't want. He goes, I'll only fight in Ireland. I don't want to fight on UFC London. I don't want to face Leon Edwards anywhere. You know what I mean?
He doesn't want to fight Leon Edwards.
No, well, they said potentially have Leon Edwards versus Ian Gary at UFC London.
That makes sense.
They didn't. He said, I don't want to fight anywhere other than Dublin.
Well, you can't really pick and choose like that because they haven't had a UFC event there for a while. But like I said, if he's not going to verse Leon Edwards, then if Kamaru Usman, JDM, they're people he should verse. He should be looking up because he did earn, I think he actually gained a lot from this last
That's what I want to say. You know, you have to respect Ian Gary after this. He did take the fight no one else wanted. But Ian, like as much as, you know, people didn't want to see you win or whatever it was, and you earned the respect of the fans, let the fans talk about it. You didn't have to beat your own drum like you are. He's going on Ariel Helwani. He went and did the post-match and said, I made Shavkat look human. You know, this is actually a win for me. There's only minor things in my game that I need to improve. You know, a couple of strikes go my way and I get the win. Let the fans talk about it because I agree with you. You did do a lot and you made Shavkat look human, but let the fans talk about it. You didn't have to toot your own horn.
Because you still lost.
You still lost. On your record, you still lost.
You still lost 3 rounds to 2 pretty convincingly. Like, it was a unanimous decision. And I do personally have gained a lot of respect for the fighter, Ian Gary. But for some commenters and people on the internet saying, well, it's not a cuck anymore. No, it doesn't work like that. You're not a cuck because of the way you fought. You were a cuck because of some outside UFC stuff. So that doesn't change, but you still gain a lot of respect as a fighter.
All right, Sharp. Who do you think is the next fight to make for Pantoja?
Pantoja did call out Demetrius Johnson, and that's the fight that they should make. But if he's not going to get that, then
DJ went straight to his YouTube channel and said, listen, I'm retired. I've been offered $2 million to fight before. I am done. I'm happy, content, not being a fighter anymore.
So
he doesn't want to fight.
So Demetrius Johnson is not going to happen. So in that case, I think it would be stupid for him to go to bantamweight. I think he's too small, and Merab or Umar would be too tough of an opponent for Alexandre Pantoja. So then he's got to verse one of the Brandons, either Royval or Moreno, have that trilogy fight. And that's where you can either then move up to bantamweight because you're undefeated.
We've seen it before. Even Kai Kara France, as much as he wants the title shot, we've seen it before. I want a fresh new opponent like how they brought in Kaya Sakura. I want Muhammad Makayev.
Yeah, okay.
He's got an undefeated record. He just got cut from the UFC. They've said he's going to fight away from the UFC and come back to the UFC.
That's still alleged, though. I don't know if it's 100% confirmed.
I think it would be a great grappling contest, and it's someone that, draws eyes to the sport, has a huge following. I want to see Muhammad Makayev fight Pantoja. I think they can make it happen. If it doesn't, go up to bantamweight and fight a contender at bantamweight before going to the title.
Yeah, okay. But, realistically, how would a fight against Umar...
Sean O'Malley?
He's too tall for him. He would just piece him up.
Yeah, but it would be an interesting fight. It would be an interesting fight.
The weight difference is just too significant, I think, for Pantoja. I think Pantoja's putting himself in that conversation.
His aura's gone up.
But yeah, he's putting himself in the conversation as one of the best flyweights of all time.
Easily.
So he obviously does have enough respect and experience now to go up to bantamweight. I just don't think it's a smart decision to do so.
Last one. What fight will you make next for Cyril Gane?
Cyril Gane has to verse Tom Aspinall. I mean, no other fight makes sense. Who's he going to fight? Tai Tuivasa? There's Rosenstrike. There's no one else. Volkov and him were a number one contenders fight. And I don't think Cyril Gane can verse John Jones again because he was embarrassed.
Yeah.
So really the only fight to make is Tom Aspinall.
And the way that he fought, and x-rays came out of his broken toes after the fight, but the way that he fought Volkov, Tom Aspinall would run through this Cyril Gane. It looks like his grappling was off. Even he lost a stand-up battle with Volkov, which I didn't expect.
Well, let's
either.
be clear here. He lost that fight.
He did not win. It was disgusting robbery.
It was one of the biggest decision robberies of all time. Volkov, obviously very upset, but Cyril Gane, after that, there's not really many fights that can make. If anything, I would make Gane versus Volkov again, just as a rematch, as this is a proper number one contenders fight because
it ruined his 4-fight winning streak. Would have gone to 5.
It's like Volkov can't go for the title now because officially he lost, but then Cyril Gane shouldn't go for the title because he kind of sucks.
But
what do
I
you do?
could see either a tune-up fight for Gane where he has to face Pavlovich or Curtis Blades. But if Volkov was done very hard done by, and Dana said, look, we fucked up, we'll make it up to you, I could see a Volkov versus Curtis Blades, who was just a contender for the interim belt. And we see what happens. I definitely think they're going to gun for Tom Aspinall versus Cyril Gane, interim title fight. You have to keep Tom Aspinall active. He can't just keep waiting for John Jones because John Jones could be very petty and just say, hey, let's just wait till June. Let's just wait till August. And I'm just taking time off your career. Tom Aspinall's going to say, fuck this. Give me Cyril Gane. I'll run through him. And then my stock's rising up and I'll be calling out John Jones again.
What do you think of the Volkov braids?
Oh, it suits him.
I
thought he was cool.
I thought he looked way too scary.
And it probably added to him. That was the best Volkov we've seen.
People were calling him Patty Pim Volkov.
I did see that, but it did stop the having to comb his hair away in the corner. And I thought, we asked him that in the lead up, and he probably had that in the back of his mind. You know what? I'm braiding my hair so it doesn't get in the way.
I think the combing of the hair added extra XP points to his fighting ability. I think that's what he missed on the weekend.
Well, the biggest talking point of the weekend really was the press conference between Merab and Umar. Merab was going nuts at Umar, saying he disrespected him. He lost respect as a man. And then from our perspective, that all happened during our interview. We were interviewing Merab, and then all of a sudden, Umar comes through. Merab cuts the interview, says, hey, come here. Then they start going at it. Went for a good 5 minutes.
Why are you disrespecting me?
Yeah.
Why are you disrespecting? I'm not disrespecting you.
Come here.
So Merab obviously has an issue with Umar. Umar's come out and said, listen, I've got nothing against him personally, nothing.
Which just means he's not running his Twitter account. He doesn't really know what Ali said on his Twitter.
Well, reading the tweets, it's hard to say like he's going at Georgian people or at Merab personally because he is the champion. That's the fight he wants to make. But there must be more to it as well. Merab obviously has maybe received DMs or some other language thing that he's heard from Umar or Abdulaziz.
Well, anyway, what happens here is it didn't stop just at the press conference. On fight night, Merab is walking out with Aljamain Sterling. He's there as a teammate, filming Aljo.
Post-fight. It was post-fight.
Post-fight, on the way back up to backstage. A member from the crowd looks like a Kazakhstani fan, okay, because he was wearing Kazakhstani outfit. He looked like he was there supporting Shavkat Rakhmonov. Initiates the contact with Merab, grabs him first. Now, Merab has done some detective work and he's posted it on his Instagram. This was entertaining for me. This was like a Law & Order SVU episode, but from Merab, and has shown that this Kazakhstani guy actually has ties to Dagestan, and he's actually obviously friends or training partners with Umar or the Dagestani clan, and he's the one that initiates the contact, starts this fight with these Merab and these other Georgians, and it just looked like it got taken out of hand, and the media's kind of gone at Merab.
Well, the media and Dana have gone at Merab saying here's another fan altercation. Dana White's come out and said he's like a mini Strickland with all the problems that he's having outside the octagon, which is pretty unfair because Merab, in his deep dive, in his investigative work, has found that this fan, or alleged fan, is a member of Team Khabib.
Yeah.
Going far back, I think there was photos as far
Old
as
photos?
5 years ago of him taking photos. It wasn't jacuzzi photos, but it was photos of them as a team.
Then they went and took him out to dinner after the altercation as well. Like, are the Dagestanis going this deep into playing mind games? Trying to get Merab in trouble with Dana? Well,
they're just getting into his head. They're riling him up as much as possible. They know that he has a problem with fans touching him and obviously talking shit to him. So they've put a plant in there. They've put an agent of chaos. They've disrupted Merab. And it's worked because Merab got riled up after. Now he's obviously mind is elsewhere. It's on some fan. It's not on Umar. But I think it's actually going to backfire because we've seen
a motivated Merab.
Yeah. Someone that's out to absolutely kill somebody. It's become so personal for him. He's brought up his country. He's brought up his ethnicity, everything about it. He wants to get this win more than anything. So
it's going to be
Umar,
a very interesting fight. Again, a very technical wrestling battle, I think it's going to be. And I just think Merab's just going to have the experience. Umar, very young, up-and-coming fight. A lot of people say he doesn't deserve the title shot. He's only getting it because of his last name. And Merab's going to show that, and I can't wait to see it. He's riled up. Great detective work from Team Merab. They went back into the archives of these photos with this, Kazakhstani guy who's actually Team Dagestan. So I want to see where this ends up.
I was very impressed though with the work of Team Khabib and Team Dagestan.
Trying to get him riled up.
I didn't think that they were this calculated in putting someone in the
calculated
crowd.
mind games. It is.
I mean, like it's not just because when you think of Dagestan, you're thinking hard work, training. That's all they know. But no, they're actually playing mind games. They're much more calculated and advanced than you think.
Well, let's go to UFC fighter pay for $310. Some of these might surprise you. Starting with Kron Gracie getting $35,000.
And you know what? He didn't deserve it. He probably deserved less than that. I'm surprised he got paid. The online sentiment was that he did not deserve to be on the main card.
The amount of damage that Kron Gracie's doing to the sport, he doesn't deserve that $35,000.
To his sport, to his family, you didn't deserve $34,000.
Well, Bryce Mitchell, on the other hand, got $216,000 for knocking him out. Then you got Volkov, $311,000 in a fight that he won. I'm going to say
it's a nice payday for a heavyweight. Obviously not the John Jones, Tom Aspinall level yet because he's not a champion. But that's a good fight to pay, you think, for a good heavyweight fight.
Cyril Gane for the win, $360,000. Now, I would have thought Cyril Gane, being the French superstar that he is, he's gone doing movies, $360,000.
And for someone that's only lost to John Jones and Ngannou, I thought maybe he would command a bigger payday. But hey, it's only alleged. Maybe he did. You don't know.
Ian Gary, $1,050,000.
That's the price of being on the co-main event. That's why you give up the fight night payday against Joaquin Buckley and you take the boogeyman fight against Shavkat because you're going to get paid.
And he's come out a winner of it. Honestly, his stock has risen from this. He's kind of gained the respect of the fans. You know what I mean? He made Shavkat look human, as he said. He talks around that he's going to be a future champ, and he's getting future champ money. So you got to respect.
And on that card, being one of the only people in the co-main event that could speak English,
a
lot of the burden on selling the event was on Ian Gary.
100%.
So I think he deserved that money.
Shavkat Rakhmonov, $1.15 million.
Again, someone that's in the co-main event, someone that's now a superstar in the sport, definitely starts deserving the M's.
He's literally changed the image of Kazakhstan from Borat to trained killers.
Yeah.
Right?
You know what's actually so surprising from being at the event? How many Kazakhstani people were in Vegas?
They made the trip.
I didn't even know
people arriving at the airport just for the fight in their Kazakhstan. They had the hat on. They got the blue flag with them. Mate, they are a proud people. And Shavkat's putting them on the map.
Like these half Turkic Asian people. Like you never see them in your life. And all of a sudden I'm seeing thousands of them in Las Vegas. Yeah. I'm like, where have these people come from?
He's a Kazakhstani superstar. And I'm going to say he's going to be the next champ. Kaya Sakura, $1.6 million for his first fight in the UFC.
Again, someone that's a superstar outside of the UFC, someone from Ryzen, a Japanese guy with a big following, he's going to command a big payday. And that's why they need to pay him.
Look, I'm going to be honest. After getting done in the second round by submission, I don't think he's going to see $1.6 million again. His next fight in the UFC, unless it's going to be a UFC Japan event that he's headlining, again, he's probably going to earn in that $1 million, $500,000
Well,
range.
you got to think, originally he wasn't supposed to main event this card. He was supposed to be the co-main. A lot of pressure was put on him to then sell the event as the pay-per-view main card fight. But it just, look, he's never going to probably won't pay-per-view again because he can't speak English. It's very hard.
Alejandro Pantoja, $3.4 million.
Well, when you're pushing yourself...
Deserved. GOAT status, deserved.
When you're pushing yourself into the conversation of the greatest flyweights of all time, you're going to get paid like one. So if he's allegedly earning $3 million, Demetrius Johnson for a return fight, you're going to be learning at least $3 to $5 million as well. So maybe, yeah, you're rejected too, but if you're getting 3 to 5, maybe that does change the conversation a bit.
Yeah, I think he deserves it. Again, he's established himself. Look what he's done to the top 10 of that division, beaten 9 of them. It's kind of GOAT status, and he's such a well-rounded fighter. He was almost outstriking Kaya Sakura, which he came into this division to kind of light it up and show this Ryzen level striking. So, again, I think he deserves it. $3.4 million at flyweight, pretty unbelievable.
Hey, good on you.
Yeah, good on you.
If there's a better person that you could say deserves that
Family
money,
man.
Pantoja.
Love it.
I
Love
love
his
you.
kids there as well. Unbelievable. Let's look at UFC 312 in Sydney. Nick, it's been announced. Drake Du Plessis versus Sean Strickland. Immediate reaction. Going to be a good main event for Sydney?
I think it's going to be a good main event because Sean Strickland is always entertaining. DDP, in his last 2 press conferences, have made people cry. He sold the fight pretty well. But what I was surprised about the fight announcement, usually you have Dana White on the selfie camera. What's up, guys?
Yeah.
But it was John Anik on the commentary team saying, "Oh, I've got the main event for Sydney. It's DDP versus Sean Strickland too."
I think we will get some Dana hype into it. Let him announce the rest of the card. I just saw the Taffa brother just got announced recently. So the card will kind of take shape. I just wonder right now, does Volkanovski get on this card?
No.
The fact that Ilia Topuria said, you may have seen my last fight at featherweight, does this mean we get an interim fight on the card as well?
They've already announced a double title fight. Weili Zhang's defending her title against Tatiana.
Okay, if that's the co-main event, I feel sorry for Sydney. I'm going to be honest with you.
And Volkanovski is holding out for a title. I think he said he wants Topuria next. I still think that fight happened. So
but he has spoken about an interim fight with
Yeah,
Diego
that was
Lopez, and he
before-
said, I'd be ready to do it in Sydney.
That was before
I'm
they
saying-
announced this fight. The fact that DDP Strickland has been announced means
But-
that's the main event. And
Okay,
you're not
so
going
you're saying Volk won't fight in Sydney unless he's the main event?
Exactly. Why
Nah,
would you? He's the biggest draw.
Because it's a title fight. You're still
Doesn't
getting
matter.
title money.
Doesn't matter.
I would say Volk would take an interim title fight against Lopez, even if it's the co-main event in Sydney. The people in Sydney will love it. We finally get somewhat of a decent stacked card in Sydney if Volk's fighting on there with Strickland and DDP. I think the UFC should try and make this happen. If Ilia Topuria doesn't want to defend his title against Volk, let it be for the interim in Sydney. We'd love to see it.
I don't think it's happening. Volk, if it was going to be Volkanovski, they would definitely have announced it by now. It's 2 months away from the event. Like it's coming up pretty soon. It's not like it's a very far away card. It's happening soon. And,
He's training. He's ready to go. And Lopez
as
would
much as-
jump. You would jump at the opportunity to be an interim title holder.
and I don't think how many cards besides maybe like a UFC 300 or 200 where there's been like 3 title fights on the one card. I know it's a female fight. You might not consider it to the caliber of a normal title fight, but for there to be 3 title fights on a card, very rarely, if ever, happens. So
It's interim, though.
doesn't
It's
matter.
interim.
That's still a title fight.
I don't know, unless they hold off. But you got to think Volk has been out of the octagon for a long time. When is he going to have this eventual fight? Especially if Ilia doesn't want to have a fight against him. You know, we're going to keep holding out till May, June. Ilia said he's not going to be back till April or May.
Yeah, I think Volk versus Ilia will happen in April or May. That's it. That's 5 months away. It's a big fight camp for
I'm
Ilia.
calling it right now. We're going to see Volk in Sydney. I think that
I'll put a substantial wager against
the
you. That won't
plans are
happen.
being the seeds are being planted for a Volk Sydney, and I'm here for it. I want to see it happen.
But do you not think that Volk should go on last? He's the biggest part of that card. If he's on that.
No, because even if he was a featherweight title fight, he wouldn't go on last there. Even if Ilia came down, it's done by weight. So DDP and Strickland would go on last.
No, it's not always done by
yeah,
weight, though.
okay, unless they're massive superstars. Unless it's Conor McGregor.
Yeah, and Volkanovski in Sydney, Australia is
all right,
Conor
but
McGregor.
on a worldwide scale, Nick, is he Conor? Be honest.
Yes, he's
All right, you're
he's a
being
featherweight
ignorant.
goat.
You're
so
being ignorant.
He's not Conor McGregor. In terms
Okay,
of,
at this stage in his career, he's not going on last.
he is. He's
At
going
this
ahead of
stage, coming
Strickland
off
and
a loss against
DDP.
Ilia Topuria, he's not going on last.
He definitely is.
Okay, and I just want to see him get a title shot anyway. So I'm happy to see him on there.
He's-
But
He's the main
move on.
eventer.
We got UFC Tampa this week. I want to ask, if Colby Covington loses to Joaquin Buckley, is he done in the welterweight division?
You're pretty much done, aren't you? Because you had a poor showing against Leon Edwards. You're 36, 37 years old now, so you're up there in age. And then, obviously, depending how you lose them, if it's like a split decision, maybe you get one more fight.
Mm-hmm.
But if you lose this pretty convincingly or by knockout, I'd say retire. Unless you're going to fight Dustin Poirier in a grudge match or Ian Gary in somewhat of a grudge match. They're the only two fights that would make sense, entertaining, you could sell it. But it's just like you don't think he's going to win.
Look, as much, and I like Colby Covington. He sells his fights. He plays the MAGA Trump. You know, I say whatever I want. Look, he's gone at Ian Gary. He goes at Kamaru Usman. Goes at everyone in the division. He's even gone at John Jones recently. But he loses his aura if he loses to Joaquin Buckley. He stepped in, and full credit to him. Everyone would pay him out saying he would never go for a younger opponent that would give him trouble. He put his hand up and said, I would replace Ian Gary against Joaquin Buckley. But if he loses his fight, I mean, who does he fight in the division? Unless he becomes like a Robert Whittaker, you know, and I become like not a gateway fighter, but just like a test for those people coming up in the division. And then, you know, can maybe string a few wins together.
I don't think his ego could handle that. He's not a Stephen Wonderboy Thompson where, you know, he's getting up there in age and then, you know, will be that fighter that people use as kind of like a ladder to go up the rankings. Colby Covington can't do that. His ego's too big for that.
Yeah,
definitely.
unless he just kind of goes into that, like a new division that the UFC pull out and has those, you know, I know it has that fight against, you know, like a Dustin Poirier or, you know, Justin Gaethje, something like that. I'd like to see happen for a lot of those older heads in the UFC. Regardless, I don't know. I want to see Colby get the win because he's one of the most entertaining fighters in the division outside the octagon. And I want to set up an Ian Gary versus Colby Covington. And if he loses here, you know, there's just no stock in that fight.
There is still stock because of the bad blood. That's the only reason you could still make it happen. But after seeing Ian Gary on the weekend, I just think he smokes Colby Covington. That's just the way it would go. That's why maybe Colby just looked at that fight and goes, you know what? I don't want that.
Now, going back to 310, was Volkov versus Gane the biggest robbery in the UFC?
Of all time?
Of all time. We've seen a lot of robberies in the UFC. I mean, people say Dominic Reyes versus John Jones could have been a robbery. People say Jose Aldo earlier this year got robbed against Baptista. So it's like, is this on the level of the biggest robberies in UFC history?
I think so. It's definitely a top 5 one, strictly because you saw Cyril Gane after the fight walk outside of the octagon. He conceded defeat. Even in the post-fight interview, he said, look, I wasn't happy with my performance, which is, again, an acknowledgement of defeat. Volkov, very disgusted with how the judges went.
Immediately, he came out in the post-match, said, this is bullshit. Dana came up to me and said, you got fucked, literally. And he also said it was a judge that was a female judge who also did boxing judging that gave a favorable outcome to Canelo Alvarez. She's saying, if she's not getting it right, consistently, why is she a judge? And he's really gone at the commission. And I don't blame him because it ruins his record. Yeah. It ruins his winning streak and also ruins his legacy because
that's why.
A win there would have put him in contention for a top 10 in that division all time, I'm saying. Top 10 all time in that division.
Usually with contested fights, whether it be Islam versus Volk, Dominic Reyes versus John Jones, you can make an argument each way. There's rounds that are contested.
I would say, yeah, it is one of the biggest robberies of all time. And the only one that would be in competition with it is Paddy versus Gordon.
Yeah,
right? Because everyone
one.
after the fight unanimously said Paddy lost that fight and was given a favorable decision. But it always seems to be the case. This is what people are saying online, that the robberies only take place when it is benefit to the UFC, when it's a John Jones, when it's a Cyril Gane, when you want to make a Cyril Gane versus Tom Aspinall fight.
It's hard to say that.
When it's a Paddy Pimblett, who we want to put a lot of stock behind.
But that's why, though, it's on the fighter sometimes to not let it go to the judges because it's not like Volkov, though, like to play devil's advocate. It's not like he cut him up real bad. He caused a lot of damage. Yeah, he had a lot more control time, but it wasn't like it was a clear cut or he dominated him. Like I would have said he won 2 rounds to 1. A lot of people say maybe it was 3-zip. Who knows? Yeah. But the fact that it was 2-1 and that last round was kind of just like, it was pretty boring.
Cyril Gane left the octagon. He said, I didn't win. His whole team, they looked disheveled. He literally left and Joe Rogan had to ask him twice, why did you leave? Because I wasn't happy with my performance. No, it's because you fucking lost.
Yeah, nah.
Right?
But, you know, credit to Cyril Gane. He wasn't parading around like he had won. And Volkov even said, like, it's not on Cyril Gane. He didn't pay the guys to win. It's just a bad decision by the judges. So it's all on the judges. And but the problem is it's become a consistent thing in combat sports. There's too much, you know.
Don't leave it to the judges.
There's too many judges that are just making stupid decisions.
You always got to go for that finish. But that brings us to the No Limit Fight Night. Let's move over to boxing. There is a No Limit Fox Fight Night this Friday night. Australian boxing, we're doing it pretty tough. Tim Tszyu gets knocked out. Liam Paro just lost his title. We got Brock Jarvis up against Rodriguez headlining this fight night. I sat down with Hamdan, who wants to fight Brock Jarvis pretty soon. We're going to preview the fight and also talk about potentially his next fight. So stay tuned. This is what Hamdan had to say. I'm here with Hamdan, Australian boxer. Now, good to finally have you in the studio.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I mean, there's no journalistic integrity. Is a friend of the show, but we've also had other friends of the show on here. We've had Georgie Rose on here. We've had Nikita Tszyu on here. And I want to hear from We've got a fight night happening this week. It sounds very interesting.
It's something that Australian boxing kind of needs heading into the new year. A lot of unlucky Australian boxers recently.
Yeah.
So maybe some bit of change of pace, a bit of change of luck, hopefully for the Aussies here.
Aussies can't catch a break. Firstly, Tim Tszyu. What did you make of Tim Tszyu's loss?
Heart of a lion. Kept getting up. It just shows the type of person he is.
Liam Paro just lost. You've trained with Liam Paro?
Oh, Paro is a legend. Good fighter. Great fighter. Just got beat by the better man on the night.
Where does he go from here?
He'll be back. I know him. He's a very, very hungry guy. Like heading over to Puerto Rico with him, seeing the mentality he had, he'll be back.
First up, for boxing fans that do tune into the show, what do you want them to know about Hamdan? I mean, we've seen you throughout on No Limit cards, great showings, Australian title holder. What do you want people to know about Hamdan?
Look, I know Australia's missing me. They're missing someone like me. There's shows that No Limit have had this year. No. I don't know how to word this without upsetting people, but they weren't as exciting as they were when I was on it.
What, just boring fighters?
Boring fights.
No entertaining boxers?
Oh, look at the fight night this weekend. There's a good bunch of fighters, individual fighters on them, but who they're fighting is I think below par.
Well, that's what I think. Australian boxing, they obviously don't have the charismatic fighters, but then it's also the people that they bring in. Sometimes they do seem like journeymen, like they just here to roll over. Is that what you're trying to say?
Brock Jarvis fighting a guy with 7 losses in a row. What do you think?
He's on a 7-fight lose streak.
7 fight lose streak. My bad. And yeah. What more can I say?
Yeah, I mean, I do think they're definitely trying to build him up for a potential fight with Nikita Tszyu. They've written about that. His coach Jeff Fennick recently spoke about having, what would a fight between Nikita and Brock look like? He's saying Brock's a finisher. Do you think Brock Jarvis is a finisher?
Brock couldn't finish himself. Look, I'm just going to say one thing about Brock. Brock's a great gym fighter. The undisputed, undefeated sparring king.
He's a sparrer.
But he can't put it together on fight night.
Well, you're saying like Ben Simmons in highlights? Is that what you're trying to say?
Something like that.
So we're bringing up Brock Jarvis because there is a No Limit Fight Night on Fox this week. We're going to get into the preview later, but you and Brock Jarvis used to be teammates. You used to be mates. Where did it go wrong? How come you guys, there's some bad blood between you boys?
Look, as a fighter, I respect him. As a person, I don't. He's took the cake. I had the crumbs, and I always played second fiddle to him, and I was happy with it. He was still jealous, had a chip on his shoulder. So,
but was there a point where you guys fell out? Did something happen in the gym?
Yeah, I supported Liam Paro on his world title win, and someone got upset. Someone's pussy got wet. So that's on him. That's on him.
So he didn't appreciate you going to help spar with Liam Paro, get him ready for his world title fight, which he won.
Yeah, pretty much. And you know what? I'll do it. I'd support any Aussie on their quest for a world title any day of the week.
What, is it like a competing gym? I don't understand. What's so upset about?
We all see what Paro done to him and put him on ice skates, put him on his ass, and he's just salty.
But you both were trained by Jeff Fennick. You're no longer with Jeff Fennick. He left Jeff, and now he's come back to Jeff.
Yeah.
What's kind of happened there? Look, are you still on good terms with Jeff like him?
Oh, I'm on good terms with Jeff. Me and Jeff will always be fine. I respect everything me and Jeff have done together. But as for Brock, I'd love to just shut him up. And I'd love Jeff to be in his corner because I don't want any excuses on fight night.
Okay. So you're going to be watching this fight night pretty intently. How do you think he goes against this Rodriguez?
Oh, look, I've just messaged to Rodriguez. I hope you don't ruin my plans. Brock's going to be tested at this weight. I've seen him on ice skates at featherweight. He's been on ice skates at lightweight. Let's see how he goes at middleweight. I hope the chin can hold up.
You don't think the chin can hold up?
We're about to find out.
Okay, we'll find out. But you do have said recently in the media, it was reported, that you do want to fight Brock Jarvis. Once his fight was announced that it's going to be headlining the fight night, you said that, so stop going around against journeyman, come fight me.
Yeah.
Brock responded, said, go enjoy your fight in Thailand. You just came back from Thailand. You won the fight in Thailand.
Yeah.
What do you want to say to Brock Jarvis now that he's fighting on Friday and you're ready to go?
Well, look, I handled my business. It's time for him to handle his. Australia needs a grudge match. Boxing's been boring in Australia for sure. There's guys representing, Sammy Goodman, Paro. They're all doing great things on the world scene. There hasn't been a domestic showdown grudge match for a long time.
Do you think he would take a fight against you? I mean, former teammates. It happens in the UFC a lot. You just saw Shavkat and Ian Gary go out against it.
Jorge Masvidal, Colby Covington.
Hillcliffe gym guys, they went out. You know what I mean? So, would you guys fight? Is it a realistic possibility you would see a Brock Jarvis versus Hamdan? I know there's a weight issue, but would he take the fight against you?
For me, I'm there. Whatever weight, whatever time, any day, whatever you want. Give me every circumstance in their favor. I'm there. On Brock's side, I don't know. Jeff said to me no. Jeff said it won't happen. Brock said it will end my career. Brock talks shit. Step up. That's
Is that because he wants a potential fight against Nikita Tszyu, or just doesn't want to risk fighting you? What's his reservation?
Would you rather be knocked out by Hamdan or Nikita Tszyu? I feel like if you fight Nikita Tszyu, the money's there, great payday, and it's a bigger name than myself. For me, I'm a super lightweight.
But objectively, I feel like he hasn't proven himself at middleweight yet. You can't just you have one tune-up fight and then you get Nikita Tszyu, who's the talk of the town, right? You know, he's the man in the division here in Australia. I feel like you do need to prove yourself a bit before jumping to Nikita.
I agree. Come through me. If you beat me, go fight Nikita. All good. For me, for me, it's more about proving myself against this guy. I was for years just always in his shadow, and I was happy with it. He used to give it to me in sparring. Then there came a time where Jeff used to tell me I can't hit him too hard in sparring. So it's just I grew. He kind of stayed at this level, and I just climbed the ladder. So. For me, look, let's get in there. Let's sort it out. If you beat me, I'll shake your hand fair and square, but I know it's not going to happen. So,
well, I'd like to see it happen soon. Like I said, I don't know. What do you think? No Limit have reservations? They are the primary card makers here in Australia.
I don't think Stan Boxing can put it on.
Yeah, Stan Boxing, they got a pretty trade. If that was the main event, it probably wouldn't happen. You'd pull out on the day, maybe. I don't know.
A couple hours before.
So, what would No Limit's reservation be for putting on a fight like this? I mean, there has been talks of it. It's in the media. You guys going at it back and forth. I'm sure they'd be very interested in it. But you haven't been on many No Limit cards in 2024. Are you kind of offside with them, or where do you see you making fights this year in 2025?
Well, for me, it's no secret I'm suspended from fighting New South Wales for the next couple of years, few years. So last year when I fought and won the Aussie title, and then I fought Danvers all on the Gold Coast, I was asking No Limits when he's going to have a show at home. This year, I'm asking him when he's going to have a show outside of New South Wales. So, look, for me, No Limits know me whenever. I'm ready whenever, anytime, just as long as it's in Queensland.
Yeah.
Is that what? So strictly New South Wales you can't fight. So that's Newcastle, Sydney.
Yeah, New South Wales, and I think Melbourne follow.
Have you been in talks with any other promotions? I mean, there's Stan Boxing. You also have The Zone coming in hard. They got Liam Paro. They got Jai Opatai fighting in January. I mean, there's options now for Aussie boxers.
Yeah.
Would you be on an undercard of any of those The Zone fights that are happening potentially with like Cambosis? Like, have you spoken to any other promotions?
I've been approached. Definitely, I've been approached. I just haven't been the right fights at my time of my career, adjusting to a new team and all that type of stuff. I always seem to be offered last second shows, last minute fights. So for me, as long as whoever offer me anyone, anytime, anywhere, just give me a proper camp with a proper team, and I'll be there.
Now, looking at 2025, do you want to be active in Australia? Do you want to go overseas? I mean, you just come back from Thailand. There's opportunities in Japan. What do you want to achieve in 2025?
Look, I think I'm done with Thailand now. I'm a bit sick of it. That's just to stay busy, stay active, try to get skinnier, keep the fat off, as we all know how we get at this time of the year, Christmas and all that stuff. So for me, it's just be as active as possible. No Limits. Offer me whatever you want in Gold Coast. I'm there. Tasman, whoever, give me fights.
Yeah, I mean, a Nikita card in the Gold Coast, I could see you definitely being on there. And I want to see this Brock Hamdan fight. I mean, it's definitely one to make with a lot of bad blood and the media attention behind it. I mean, you've seen these press conferences. They often can be boring. I mean, the only entertaining fighter I've seen on a No Limit press conference has been Zarafa.
Tony Harrison.
And that was a long time ago. And that was a very long time ago. But talking about Michael Zarafa, we caught up with him on the show. He's eyeing a potential Tim Tszyu match up here in Melbourne. That could be.
Or Sydney. It would probably happen in Sydney.
Yeah,
Let's hope
okay.
it happens in Melbourne. At least
What-
you can get Hamdan on the card and it can be a decent undercard.
What are your thoughts on Zarafa? Do you think he eventually gets this Tim Tszyu fight he's gunning for? He said he's potentially spoken to people, Eddie Hearn, and potentially been on a card earlier in the year in Australia. But where do you think he lands with Tim Tszyu? And is that the right fight to make?
I think at this point in both their careers, it's the right fight to make. I think they're both coming off a loss. Tim Tszyu obviously.
Zarafa had the win, but it was like the guy
Oh,
pulled
sorry,
out
that's
with the
right, that's
bicep
right,
and-
that's right.
And his
Yeah,
brother
yeah.
punched
And,
someone.
his brother had more,
Yeah, that's
more
right.
action in that
Well,
fight.
I know that Tim was laughing and saying you're associated with Nikita now. So I think for Tim, knowing Tim as a person, I don't think he wants that fight or even wants to give him
Well,
time
he's
of
like
day.
too big for it now because he's obviously associated with possibly fighting Nikita. It's like it's a step below.
Yeah, knowing Tim how he is, he's the ultimate competitor. He probably is just looking for the next biggest fight, and he's your fighter's favorite fighter.
Do you think he needs to fight in Australia before he goes overseas again? He's had 2 bites of the cherry, one in Florida, one in Las Vegas. He wanted to have a residency in Las Vegas and have fights there permanently. Said that was the place to be. But now coming off a loss, do you think he needs a couple more wins here before going back?
Not really. Or he can fight here, just bring an international opponent over. Tim's the ultimate professional. I know his chef very well.
Omar.
Omar, great
Mills.
guy.
I've actually
Yeah.
bought a meal recently.
Yeah, shout out to Omar Mills, the fight chefs.
Yeah.
So I'm actually on him too. So
Yeah.
that's why I've lost a bit of weight.
You're looking good.
And look, he's the ultimate professional. Whatever he does, I'm supportive of it in his career. He's someone that I aspire to be like.
You want to go over, eventually conquer the US. You don't want to. I mean, look what Jai Opetaia has kind of done. And I ask this with Australian boxers that come on because he doesn't get the attention that the Zoos get. What are your thoughts on Jai Opetaia? And do you think he's going to be probably the face of Australian boxing very soon?
I think he's the best fighter to come out of our country, like by our country mile right now, and he's just flying the flag for us. It's a shame the media is not getting behind him as much. You should get him on the K-Roos show.
I think you're eventually going to get him on. 2025, Jai Opetaia, before his fight, we'd like to see it happen. I want to talk to him because, again, he's been cleaning up on those Saudi cards and he's beating formidable opponents.
I feel like he's on every second or third Saudi card. Every time there's a boxing event, a Riyadh season boxing card, he's on there.
But again, probably doesn't get the love in Australia that the Zoo boys get for sure. I don't know if that's a no limit thing and how good they are with the promotion and stuff like that. But the guy is undeniable. His skill is unbelievable. I mean, Rob Whittaker spoke about sparring him. Apparently, he got absolutely clean.
Yeah,
in a spar.
Jai's sharp. Jai's
Yeah.
sharp as you look at fighters like Jai, Liam Paro. Liam just fought for a world title in America. No one barely knew about it. Like Australian mainstream media need to get behind these fighters a lot more.
Well, someone that you have association with, Sammy Goodman. He's fighting on Christmas Eve against Inoue. This is the biggest fight of the year for Australia, I think. Again, Inoue, international superstar, just signed a deal with Riyadh Season, a $15 million deal to be fighting under Turk Al-Sheikh. This guy's as big as it gets.
Number 1 pound for pound in the world.
Yeah. How do you think Sammy
Special-
Goodman
special
goes
fighter.
representing Australia?
Look, if I'm Inoue, I'm not signing no contract. He's got a real tough fight in front of him. Sammy has gone and beaten everyone they've put in front of him so far. He's a very, very good fighter. He believes in himself, and I'm backing him all the way.
Well, not that he fought a Japanese guy recently. It was another Asian guy, Thailand guy, Warawat. Cleaned him up in Wollongong. I thought it was very convincing that. And then he went and called out Inoue again after. Got that fight signed, sealed, delivered. I know it's not going to be easy. Tokyo Dome, bright lights. They're really pushing for him hard. He's doing a lot of media. He was just with Brent Lee. He's doing a lot of stuff with Volk. You know what I mean? 2 Wollongong boys. Do you think he can handle the pressure of this Tokyo Dome, bright lights? Because there's a big difference between fighting in Wollongong at Wynn Stadium, at the Wynn Entertainment Centre, and fighting in Tokyo. How do you think he reacts to the pressure?
It's got a Rocky 4 feel to it. Don't you reckon? It's going by yourself to a different country and going to conquer the beast there. Sammy's someone, I've just joined their team recently. His mental strength is like no other. What an athlete, and he believes in himself. So for someone like that, I see the way he trains, the amount of training sessions he does per day, the workload, the diet. He cooks for himself. I'd like to try cooking one day, and just everything about him. He's just really professional, and honestly, I think he can do it. I think he can get it done.
If he does get it done, is this one of the biggest upsets in Australian boxing history?
It'll be the biggest, I reckon. George Kambosos has well done it, so I think this will be just a little bit bigger. Sorry, George.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't mean
For
in
sure.
a bad way.
Definitely different weight divisions. Now, with Kambosos, you just brought him up. He's been speaking about fights that he wants to have here in Australia. Again, that ties to Eddie Hearn, the Zone Boxing. Do you see a fight with him and Liam Paro still on the cards, especially after Liam just recently lost?
I think now it's a good crossroads fight for both of them. The winner goes on to better things, and the loser sort of, just
Fades back into obscurity.
yeah. But
Two former champions. Yeah, it's a fight to make.
Having a go. I think it's the fight to make at this point in their careers. Liam's got a lot to offer. I'm sure George does too. But if you just look at sort of where they're at, where they're both at in their careers, I think it's a good fight to have. Yeah.
Well, let's look at the fight night here in Sydney. It's at the Star in Sydney. Unfortunately, I won't be able to go. Nick, you might have to go for me. Still currently banned from the Star. But let's talk about it.
That's both of us then.
Yeah.
All right, done. We'll get a pizza and we'll watch it together.
We'll just watch it together, have our bets together.
Sounds good.
But I want to do a preview with us, Hamdan. Fight night is on Friday night. Let's go through one of the first fights on the card. We've got Ahmed Reda versus Michael Reynolds. How do you think Ahmed goes in this fight? Who's the winner of that fight?
Ahmed Reda is a winner here for sure, no problem at all. Ahmed's a good kid. I've known him for a long time. Very hungry, managed by the same guy. He's a star to watch out for sure in the future.
How do you think he gets
How
it
do you think
done?
he gets it done?
I think he stops him. I've seen this guy fight that
Reynolds.
He fought that Englishman. Forgot his name.
Recently?
He fought.
Holkinghorn?
Yeah, that's him. He fought him. I think Ahmed does it in better fashion than him. Yeah.
Okay. We got Jazzy Parr up against Shannon O'Connell. Now, Jazzy Parr, no limit strapping a rocket to her, okay? And Fox Sports are getting right behind her because she's doing the commentary. She's a pretty face, but also she can box.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how well in tune you are with female fighting, especially female Aussie fighting. We've got some international superstars. Is it an easy Jazzy Parr W? The younger fighter just gets it done?
I don't think it's that easy.
Okay.
It may look that way. Shannon is coming off a loss, I think. So Shannon's been around. From...
This is like a passing of the torch
Yeah,
fight.
it is. It's a good crossroads fight. I think if Shannon loses, I think that'll be the end of the road for her and the start of something good for Jazzy. And I think if Jasmine loses, then back to the drawing board and the queen of Aussie reasserts herself.
Now, main event, Brock Jarvis versus Rodriguez. Without bias, what happens here?
Good question. What I want to happen and what I think is going to happen are two very different things. And I think Brock's going to get tested at middleweight. I think this guy's a bit more durable than they all think. 7 losses, but against great caliber opponents. I think won an Australian title before.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to try and test Brock's chin early. If Brock survives this, Brock will probably come out over the top of him. But Brock's, I don't know, I saw a video of him the other day and he looked real stiff. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I hope Rodriguez doesn't ruin my plans because I know if Brock's on his ass, then that'll probably be the end of Brock and then no fight with me. So
It's a must-win for Brock.
it's a must win.
So wait,
Every fight's a must win.
You want Brock to win, but you think he'll be tested and might lose?
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does
Yeah,
make sense.
It makes sense.
What do you think? He's going to get... Okay, say if what we're reading is true and they're definitely trying to set up a Nikita versus Brock match, what does Brock do post-fight? Do you get on the mic? Is he calling out Nikita? What's the lead up? What's Jeff Fennick saying into the lead up of this fight? What do you think happens?
I think Jeff speaks for him. I think Brock couldn't string a sentence together in front of a microphone. I know Brock. I know Brock well. So Jeff's a good guy to have on side. He'll get you to where you want to be. Great trainer. And for him, I think they've chose the right opponent at the right time for Brock, as they have his whole career. So yeah, I think he should win by a stoppage, I think, late.
Is there any chance Brock calls you out with everything that's happened in the lead up to this fight, the media attention around you guys going at each other, going at each other's opponents, talking about your back history with Jeff? Is there any chance he goes, give me Huss Hamdan and the winner faces Nikita Zoo?
I hope so. I hope he has the balls to step up and to ball up and to man up. I hope so. So for me, I don't think so though, because I was sitting in Thailand not long ago with Jeff, and Jeff looked at me with a smirk on his face, and I said, "What?" And he goes, "You're not getting it." And I said, "Why?" And he goes, "You're not getting it." And I said, "Why does a guy with 7 losses in a row get it?" And he goes, "Because he can win." And that's the words from Jeff's mouth. And I looked at him and I said, "It's a business. Boxing is a business at the end of the day, and they're making money, good on them. But I'm here to put a stop to Brock's career. He said he's going to end my career. I want him to step up and do it."
Well, there you have it. I'd love to see it happen. It's definitely the fight to make in Australia. You don't have many fights to make in Australia. They're looking for people to get on cards. I think it's going to be an interesting fight. I want to see Brock win just to see what will happen. boxing's going to be a very interesting space in 2025 here in Australia. Like I said, you got the Zone coming in. They're making fights in January. We got some international superstars as Aussie boxing. Aussies just need to see more of them. Huss Hamdan versus Brock Jarvis, I think, is a fight to make.
And then maybe Huss Hamdan Nikita Zoo. That's what I want.
Oh, yeah.
Selfishly.
Tell me about
One
it. Tell
step
me
at
about
a time,
I think
boys.
you'd get every Lebo from the area going against Nikita Zoo. Do that at the ICC Centre. Someone talk to New South Wales Commission. Let's make it happen. But Nikita needs opponents too. I mean, what do you make of his matchup against Colin Mazzutia?
I'll just now joining Sam Goodman team. Sorry, Colin's there too. So I'm doing rounds of Colin. Colin's a good fighter, very good fighter. Nikita had to be on that day to beat him. Colin stepped it up levels.
Yeah.
Both got chins, both got power, both got good IQ in the ring. They're both great fighters. The better man won on the night, but Colin's stock rose that night too.
When do you think Nikita is having his return fight? At some point early next year?
I don't know. I'm hearing he's got a hand injury. He's another one to watch out for. I think he's going to represent Australia at the highest level. And I know Brock's gunning for that fight, but I don't think he'll get there. I think
But still in the early stages of his career. What is he? What,
Yeah.
8 and 0?
Yeah, 8
He's
and 0.
more than 8-0, but he's
Is
only
he
like
8 or 9? I think
Professional.
we're sort of somewhere around the same. I think he's 8 or 9 or 10 or
Yeah.
something. Yeah, but he's the dynamo. He's a real good fighter. He's tough as nails. Look at him. I've shaken his hand before. He's just grip. He's just a strong, scary guy. But he'll give anyone trouble. And Nikita's probably the next in line to wave the Aussie flag on the world stage, I think.
Well, there you go. Huss, thank you for coming in. Appreciate the time. Keep an eye out for the Fox Fight Night this week. And Huss, just let us know if you're going to do anything in the media anytime soon. Because I know that there's this fireworks between you, Brock, and Jeff. And they're always writing about it. So just give me a heads up so I can report on it.
No worries, Don. You'll be the first
Thank you
person I
so
go
much.
to. See you, bro.